This is Jinx. I was 11 years old when we took him home for the first time, and that day was one of the most exciting of my entire life. At that point, I was having a really rough time in school, and all I wanted was a friend, so getting that dog was really huge for me. After 13 years with us, he was riddled with tumors, practically blind, and had no clue what was going on around him. About a month ago, he stopped eating and stopped moving, and it was his time, I guess, so he was taken to be put down. A few days before he died, though, my cornball mom gave me this Harry Potter wall art and asked me to do something with it. Before they slammed out my boy, I was going to make some kind of family portrait thing, but after Jinx died, I decided it would only be right to make a painting of him instead.
So help you God.
So help me God.
It's a wooden plaque with some pretty rough grain, so before I did anything, I needed to sand down some of that raised grain so that it would be enjoyable to paint on. After that, I took some measurements, found the center both horizontally and vertically, and settled on a design basically of 7 floating dog heads, each representing something about the dog in a different way. I was going to do these paintings with acrylic because that's just what I had on hand, but after a little test dog that I did on a piece of scrap wood, I remembered why I just don't paint anything in general. Oil paint seemed easier, so I went out and bought a bunch of those. I'd never messed with them before, but I figured I've watched enough YouTube shorts that I could figure it out as I went. I got started, I laid down a watery brown background just to get rid of that white, and then put in some quick sketches for each of the dog heads. In all honesty, I probably should have spent more time on this. I really only spent about 30 seconds on each little sketch here. It just kind of raw dogged it, but either way, turned out fine enough. From here, I got into it and just started painting each head one by one. We got Jinx from some lady in Pittsburgh who bred them for dog shows. He was the runt of his litter and his patterns weren't show quality, whatever that means, and so he wasn't anywhere near as expensive as his siblings. He's always been a pretty strange dog behaviorally. Many words could be used to describe him, but a good dog was never one of them. In most ways, actually, he was a terrible, terrible dog. He hated people, he hated other animals, he barked nonstop, he was gross in terms of scents, sounds, actions, he always smelled, he would eat his own shit. Sometimes he would eat his own shit, throw it up, and then eat it again. Until I moved away, he really was kind of like my dog. I took care of him, and to be honest, he was a really hard dog to have as a kid because he just spent every waking minute of his life either destroying something or trying to kill himself. You had to keep an eye on him at all times because if you didn't, there would be disastrous consequences. For example, one time my sister bought him a rope toy like this, and a normal dog would just chew on it, leave it alone for a little bit, but Jinx was built different. One night in his crate, he ripped it to shreds and ate the whole thing. This led to a bowel obstruction that almost killed him when he was little more than a year old. Tragedy. There was another time that he escaped our yard and ran down the road to our neighbor's house and was barking at some of his kids. This neighbor was a violent alcoholic and came out with a baseball bat and was steps away from bashing his head in before my mom stepped in and brought him home. There were times he ate stuff he wasn't supposed to and had to have his stomach pumped. One time I unironically caught him chewing on a bottle of hydrogen peroxide. He's bitten every member of my family dozens of times, as well as most of my friends and a few of my neighbors. After I moved away, most of the responsibilities for that dog ended up lying with my sister. She ended up coming down here and painted one of the heads. She put him in this strawberry outfit because towards the end of his life he wore that all the time. She also put in his mouth his favorite toy from recent years, and it's this green stuffed animal. He carried it around with him everywhere he went, and that thing just reeked. It was sopping wet at all times. It was foul. There was one time I was trying to watch Iron Man 1 on DVD, and we kept all our DVDs in this dungeon in my basement where nobody ever really went. Before you turned on the power, it was pitch black, and the only way to turn on the power was to stand on a chair and kind of fumble a light into the ceiling. Well, this time I went down there and got on the chair, but before I stepped on the chair, I felt something mush between my toes. I got the light on, and then I noticed that there was dog poop on the floor. Not just a little bit, but there were 10 to 20 separate different loads left in different spots. And then I looked closer and noticed that there were some spots where there was little more than fecal crumbs left behind. I realized that this little goblin was coming down here and shitting when nobody was looking so that he could save it as a snack for later. I didn't get to watch Iron Man that night. Honestly, the only way to describe him was autistic. He was not normal. I think he liked us, but he didn't really know how to show that because he hated being touched or even looked at. One of the ways that I think he showed it was by his love for playing fetch. I think he thought that I enjoyed playing fetch as much as he did, so he would play with me all day long. His favorite toy was a purple Halloween trick-or-treat pumpkin, and he would just bash his head into it. That also could be part of his issues. I used to live next to this like creek within a ravine, and I would take him down there sometimes, and he loved it because you could just run off leash and just get into stuff, and there was nowhere really for him to go. It was pretty funny. I'd like grab a rock from the shore and I'd toss it in the water, and no matter how deep the water was, he would like dive down and get that rock, and he would bring it back to me. But you couldn't get it from him, and he would carry that same rock back to the house like every single time. It was pretty cute. As I worked my way through the heads, I got a better feeling for oil paint and was able to paint much faster. First couple took me about an hour each, but eventually I could finish one in about 15 minutes. Though through the whole thing I made a bunch of blunders that costed me a lot of time. For example, I was like putting shading on this one strawberry guy, and I rested my hand on a freshly painted face and smeared it and had to start over. Or as usual, I just generally don't plan stuff, and then that leads to like very predictable complications. After working on this for about a month and a half, I finally had almost finished it. During the process of making this, ironically, my other childhood dog that we got a few years after Jinx got into a horrible fight with 2 pit bulls and got brutally ripped apart. While the fight was happening and I was trying to get the pit bulls off the dog, I just kept thinking about Jinx and how I had just lost him. Really, no matter how loved any animal is, every animal, including people, must die at some point, and that really just could be any day. Luckily, she survived the whole thing, but, you know, it really is it makes you think. It's not quite done, as I still need to clean up the frame a little bit and put some protective coating on it once the paint dries, which might take weeks. But we're going to call this done for now. I'm going to give this to my mom in a couple weeks, and I know she's probably not going to like it very much, but I'm glad I made it. Making this brought me back to the 8 years that I spent with that dog, taking care of him every single day, cleaning up his messes, keeping things away from him for his own good, playing with him, feeding him, taking him to shit in the yard. While most of it wasn't very fun, all of it was worth it because he was my friend. Even though most people wouldn't call him a good dog, he was my dog, and I really did love him. Thank you for watching.